Has it really been 28 years since Twister? Oh my God. And I saw that movie in the theater. This is insane. Jesus. Let's see if this new Twisters movie enters the suck zone. I'm sure I'm not the only person to use that in the intro. I'm just going to call it right now. Okay. I'm going to take responsibility. Anyway, let's review Twisters. Twisters stars Daisy Edgar Jones, Glenn Powell, and is directed by Lee Isaac Chung.
All right, here we go.
What's up, guys? Welcome to a brand new 2024 review for Twisters, a movie that came out of nowhere this year that I never even expected for us to get another movie just because of the distance of time. Sure, I thought by now we'd probably have like at least 3 more Twister movies because the first movie was a complete juggernaut. It was massive when it came out. I saw it back in 96. 96 was the year of Twister, Independence Day, and Mission Impossible. And it was just a big year for movies. This day and age, you can at least double that in terms of how many big blockbuster, budget type movies, whereas back then you'd only get a few, and they all did really well. And before we jump into the spoiler-free review, I will say I watched Twister 96 last night for the first time in I think 20 years, and my God, that movie is so fun, so great. And I apologize if I end up comparing this movie a little bit to that movie, and I think there are some pros and cons in that area. But up front, man, I really love the first Twister. I forgot how much I love that movie. It is really great, really fun. And the theater experience for that movie was great back then too, as was this one as far as the experience, right? The tornadoes and all that. But first, let's give you a quick plot synopsis. Really, our leads of this movie are Daisy Edgar Jones and Glenn Powell. Daisy Edgar Jones plays Kate, and Glenn Powell, he plays Tyler. Let's just say, because I don't want to spoil anything, and there are definitely some spoilery type things plot-wise, so I don't want to give too much away. Let's just say they come from 2 different sides of the tracks in terms of tracking tornadoes, much like the first movie. So, take that for what you will. There's a lot more that I could tell you, but I'm going to avoid. But it is important stuff, all right? And you'll know exactly what I'm talking about when you watch the movie. You'll be like, oh, I understand why he didn't say that. What I will say about Kate, she's really the anchor of the movie. Let's just say that she has a troubled past that involves, her line of work and tornadoes, and it takes a lot to get her back in the saddle. And I think she is intercepted by Tyler and his team. She's part of another team. Tyler's team, they're more rough around the edges. They have a lot more character, much like our main team in the first movie, 96. Whereas the team that Kate was part of, they're more straight-laced, they're more uniform with their attire and everything, and their vehicles look like they cost more technology. So it does repeat a lot of the beats of the first movie, but I think there are enough differences. It doesn't feel like, hey, let's remake the first Twister. No, these are different characters. They have different aspirations. Even, from a weather standpoint, you get a few different angles concerning the Twisters, the tornadoes in this movie than you do in the original movie. Anytime you have a sequel or a second movie in a franchise, even though this is not necessarily a franchise yet, is it? I guess because there's 2 movies. You're going to up the ante. I guess that's what I'm trying to say in terms of everything, really. The science, the characters, the special effects, and this is a 28 years later movie. Of course, there's going to be a big step up in terms of the special effects because of how far we've come technology-wise, which that kind of factors into this, how far we've come in meteorology. Sometimes more doesn't always mean better, though, because you have 2 teams, and I think they're trying to wedge in more characters in this one and give them personalities Whereas in, the first movie, they focused on the main team, and let's say there were like 6 or 7 of them, and they all had their own distinct personalities. But we'll get into the cons of the movie. Let me start you off with the pros. Getting ahead of myself. Our 2 main leads are really fun. They have great chemistry together. You're definitely going to make comparisons to Matthew McConaughey with Glenn Powell. This takes place in Oklahoma. Of course, you're going to have that southern drawl, right? I'm from Mississippi, so it's there. But man, I could not help but think of Matthew McConaughey, and maybe that's just his voice. It sounds so much like it. But just the way he carries himself too, he's the cool guy. His team, they have like a YouTube channel, so they're updating it for like the modern day. And thank God this movie does have Glenn Powell, because he is extremely charismatic. Immediately I'm thinking, this guy's career is going to go really far. It's already on the rise. And I think if this movie's a hit, then he's definitely going to skyrocket. And if this movie did not have him, it would suffer quite a bit. I'll say that right now. Also, Daisy Edgar Jones, she is extremely charismatic. You can't help but love her. Check out Normal People. She was in that show with Paul Mescal, and she's really great. She's a really good actress. Just a very interesting actress. The camera loves her. And, she definitely has that leading lady vibe about her. The Twisters are great. I watched this in a Dolby theater. The seats were rocking, when the Twisters were going. There's plenty of Twister action in this movie. But it definitely gets into the science as well, but I don't think that gets in the way of the entertainment of the movie. It's a Twister movie, and these are unique movies. As I was watching this, I was thinking, why aren't there more Twister movies? Because these are experiences. They're not just movies. You have to see these on the big screen. I remember back in the day when I saw the original Twister on the big screen. It was a fun time. It literally feels like you're riding the movie. So no wonder they actually made a Universal Studios ride out of the first movie. And when it was open, we used to go to it all the time. It's a fun time. This is definitely a movie that you want to see on the big screen. And again, highly charismatic lead characters. And to be fair, the other characters, I don't dislike them. They don't get in the way. But I guess here's where we jump into the cons. Remember Philip Seymour Hoffman in the first movie, Dustin? That was probably the most infectious side character that I've ever seen. He was so fun, so spontaneous. You don't have that in this movie. It's not there. You see attempts at it, but it just doesn't work. And it's a shame too, because this movie does have some star power in it. You have David Corenswet in this, who was announced to be Superman. He's going to be in the Superman movie by James Gunn. And he is a one-dimensional character. You don't really get much out of him at all. And he has this line in the movie. I'm not going to say it, but you're rolling your eyes just because of how one-dimensional it is. It's a character trope that we see in movies all the time. Being careful with my words, because I don't want to even say what type of character he is. But it's David Corenswet, and I guess I wanted more out of him because he is a really good actor. For what he's got to chew on in this movie, I like him. But again, he's just very one-dimensional. Katie O'Brien, who was phenomenal in Love Lies Bleeding, just an actress with some great range and everything. And again, just very one-dimensional. She doesn't even get that many lines in the movie. I guess I'm nitpicking. I mean, when you see stars that are pretty big today that don't really get much to do in the movie, it pretty much just leans heavily on our 2 main leads, which that's not a bad thing. They're really great. They're really charismatic. They carry the movie just fine. So overall, I definitely give the movie like a high humdrum. It's fun. It's a good time, but see it in the theater. This is one I'm begging you to see it in the theater. Just don't expect it to be like, the greatest freaking movie you've ever seen, all right? And it's nowhere near as good as the original. I love Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt. I forgot how charismatic those 2 were in that movie. Although the character Bill Paxton, my God, what a complete asshole douche for bringing his fiance, Jamie Gertz, the great Jamie Gertz, on that ride and pretty much making Dustin babysit her over and over again. I really felt bad for her in that movie, but that was part of the movie, and they have a scene where he does feel bad, and Jamie Gertz's performance in that one scene was beautiful. And she's just this little side character. But you give a side character just one little scene to really show off, and grab you by the heart, it can make all the difference. And this movie doesn't really have that in terms of the side characters. But you do have some good heart and emotion with the two main leads again. So, yeah. So, let me know what you guys think of Twisters when you see it. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day. On Fridays, we do Free For All Fridays. Follow me at Drumdums on all my socials. Support me on Patreon. Become a channel member. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Drumdum out.